Yeah, man. So I gotta reiterate. I could say there's a cheat code for everything that the right does these days, and the right has been doing for, I guess, since the switch in the '60s. Right. The cheat code that powers everything they do is racism. That's it, plain and simple. So I was talking with a friend of mine today. I was talking to my buddy Mario today, and we were discussing this whole thing with the CEO and everything like that, and there's a point I want to make about. I mean, you can listen to Tom Hartman. You can listen to that book that came out about why the healthcare system, especially Medicare and Medicaid, have this 20% gap. You can read up on that. If I have time, depends on what time I may bring up the picture of the book that you should read at the end of this. But when you talk about, um, there's a cheat code for everything. Things in this society presently no longer work properly, are endangered, or have been under assault, or have been weakened, or have been hollowed out, right? This has been done so ever since the '60s when black people, especially, won the right to avail themselves of free state college, the public education system, Medicare, Medicaid, welfare, unemployment insurance. You know what I'm saying? Housing assistance, SNAP, um, Pell Grants, and all those things like that. These kind of things were available to whitey folks for decades since they got started. The GI Bill, all of that stuff. VA benefits that they're looking to cut right now. They've been available to whitey folks for generations, for decades, with no problem. Part of the horse trading when all of these things were started, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid stuff was started, was it wouldn't have passed if they didn't exclude black people from getting it. Again, let me state clearly and plainly the crux of this whole thing. Unlike other racial identities, which are in fact sociocultural similes to ethnic, socio, ethnic, tribal, and national identities to some degree. Um, the whitey identity as a racial identity is a is an identity that at its core requires, or at its core fused into existence, a racial, I would say, inequality. It is required. There was a whitey supremacy fused, created at the creation of the whitey identity. And it required a power dynamic and pyramid of power, where the people who've been accepted as being white, or who were considered as white, or who were white presenting, were at the top of the pyramid. They were supposed to garner all the benefits, all the power, right? And more importantly, the perception of a socio-economic and a socio-cultural separation, with them being the final arbiter, with whitey people being the final arbiter of all things, whitey people being the standard, whitey people behaving like the male lion that gets to eat from the carcass before all the other female lions and the cubs, aka the other racial groups, get to quote unquote eat. That was the agreement for the whitey identity. That was the cell wall essentiality of the whitey identity. So, For decades since the GI Bill passed, Social Security, Medicaid, FHA, HUD, all these different things passed. Whitey people were allowed to use those things exclusively. They were given land grant colleges and all that stuff like that was exclusively for whitey people. And they were allowed to elevate themselves and build generational wealth and everything of the sort. White, black people especially, even though some of them were allowed to work, we worked and stuff, we had menial tasks, we weren't allowed in certain professions, we weren't allowed in unions and stuff, but we were taxed. So our tax dollars went into all these things that whitey people were benefiting from almost exclusively. So for generations, we've been paying into these systems, into these programs, and we were legally barred from using them. So once we earned the right to use them in the 60s, therein created a kind of discomfort, a kind of cognitive dissonance. Meaning, if they're able to use these things that we were exclusively able to use for generations, for decades, that means they are on equal playing field to us. They are garnering the same benefit from using these programs and having access to these funds and these publicly traded funds, having access to community centers and stuff, right? That we used to exclusively have. And what that means is that they are encroaching upon that promised separation, that promised socioeconomic, sociocultural separation, socio-professional separation in a lot of cases. They're encroaching on it. They join the unions now. A lot of them are mayors, a lot of them are congresspeople, a lot of them are professionals, engineers, doctors, lawyers, nurses. Those are exclusive things that benefit. A lot of them are government employees, federal government employees, which is key to the upcoming upcoming administration. So, long story short, the right has been agitating to correct that dynamic for decades. That is why they assaulted public education. That's why they've been trying to get rid of Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. All right? That's why they want to go after the Department of Education. That's what they've been going after, all of these different things. That's why they want to go after VA benefits. Too many black folks are veterans because a lot of black people join the army too. And a lot of them, they join the army to get a chance to gain some kind of skills, some kind of employment, to gain money for college, which is the GI benefit. So they want to gut that too. People come back from being in the army, they get top notch, they get decent health care. Too many black folks in the VA benefits. They got to get rid of that because there's no separation anymore. Y'all see what I'm saying? You get what I'm saying? So President Trump, the upcoming administration, wants to basically extract, like he wants to get rid of 80% of the workforce. But more importantly, which is not being said, they want to extract black and brown folks from that, from the federal government, from that level in society. They want to kick them out of that level of society because they don't belong there. And that will help to reburnish and refurbish the whiteness, the value of whiteness again. So basically, they're trying to say, oh, let's get all this other noise about working from home and stuff. It's a ruse. The true thing is to basically refurbish whiteness. Since the majority of black folks are employed by governments, majority of black folks are in military and use all these different things. They're trying to extract us from all levels of society and relegate us back to where they think we need to be, where we should be. So racism is a cheat code for the right wing, and it has been so since the switch of the 60s.